Hello, I'm Pamela Davis. Welcome to episode 130 of the Well Done Life podcast. And hello, welcome to episode 130 of the Well Done Life podcast. I'm your host, Pamela Davis. If you are new here, hey, how are you? Welcome. I am so glad that you are here with us this week. If you've been here before, you guys know the deal. I love you deep. Thank you so much for continuing to support me. So before we get started with this week's episode, you guys know I like to be really foundational. I want to make sure that everyone understands that in this space, the safe space that we are building, we kind of treat it like a house. And with that, I want to make sure that our foundation is strong. So our foundation is going to be built on two very important things, and that is clarity and love. With clarity, I just like to make sure that you understand that the Well Done Life podcast is a podcast that I created for women. I created this space because as women, we need places where we can be our most authentic self, where we can laugh and cry and share and grow together. So welcome. And I am so glad to have you as a part of the community. And then that leads me to my other favorite foundation that we are building this safe space on, and that is love. Love is going to be the root of everything that we do in this space. And with that, I like to make sure that every week I send you prayers because I think that we need to pray for each other. We need to have more opportunities to share love with each other. So I hope when you are in this space that you feel loved and that you know that you are valued and highly regarded. So this week, I'd like to make sure that I am sending you prayers of peace. I want to make sure that you are taking care of yourselves mentally and physically, giving yourself that peace and space to remove anything in your life that may be troubling your spirit or anything that just doesn't settle with you. Give yourself that peace to be able to do that because your peace is paramount over anything that you will do in your life. Along that line, one of my favorite things to do is make sure that I wish you love. I send you prayers of love. I want you to feel love from the top of your head to the bottom of your feet. And I'm talking about reciprocal love. I'm talking about good love. I want you to feel love that adds value to your soul, to your spirit, to your energy, to your life, not be in situations that are just holding you down. And that's not always in a romantic vein as well. That can sometimes be love that we experience from friends or family that's kind of needs to be adjusted. I'm not going to say toxic, but I'm going to say needs to be adjusted. Make sure that you are making decisions about what feels good to you, what love looks like to you. You only get one life to live, so live it fully and live it completely on your terms. And with that also, I'd like to make sure that I send you prayers this week of just being able to acknowledge, being able to listen, being able to be open. You know, you never know what experiences await you when you are open. And, sometimes we get a little concerned about, it's something different, something that we're not used to trying. You never know what you can learn by listening to a new podcast or what you can learn by just having a conversation with someone that you haven't really talked to before. There's just so many opportunities in this world for our knowledge to expand, for us to expand as people. Give yourself that opportunity to expand, to grow. I mean, we've been talking about that this is like the end of the year and, getting into that, believe it or not, yeah, we are in that end of year season and we need to start thinking about, the things that we want to do going into 2023 and how we want our lives to be different. Our lives can't be different if we're not open to learning something new. It just can't. You can't get new energy, new mana from learning the old habits over and over again. You have to be willing and open to receive new impartations. Trust your discernment. Trust yourself enough to know that you can open yourself up and still be protected and valued. Deal with the side of yourself that prevents you from being able to be receptive to new information so that you can continue to grow and expand. So those are my prayers for you this week. And I am also still even adding in, of course, abundance because I want you to have abundance on all levels. That is financially, that is mentally and spiritually. It's all about growth, reciprocity, and love in this space, baby. So I hope you feel it and I hope you know that you are valued. So we're here. It is Tuesday night, October the 18th, and I am recording at 8:35 p.m. It is a little early for me today, but I'm back on it. I am so grateful to everyone for their support and comments from last week's episode. It's personal. Yes, it was just me back in the chair, and it felt really good to kind of be back. Please excuse the teacup. I know the teacup was like a second party, was like my guest, but I want to thank everybody for their cute comments and for their feedback. A friend of mine called me tonight and we were talking about it, and she just made me laugh, and it just felt so good. So it just felt kind of good to start to share some of my thoughts as we're moving into this end of the year, and as I am preparing for my golden renaissance, this new level of my life that I'm about to experience. I'm very excited about it. So if you haven't had a chance to listen to that episode, I'll make sure I link it in the show notes. But it definitely is the beginning of me starting to kind of set the tone for how we will be moving in these next few months going into 2023, because yes, the Golden Renaissance, my 50th year, I plan on making it grand. But then at the same time, I'm also thinking about this next decade and how very personal it is to me, and how I want to take you on this personal journey as well. So, but this week, it is not just me. I have a guest. I am very excited to have Miss Sheena Steward in the pod today. And Sheena and I met through social media, and she is actually a new podcaster, and she's been a content creator for quite some time. And she is just truthfully vulnerable and just such a great voice, I think, for the collective. So I am very excited about bringing her here and hopefully imparting and sharing you with her. So if you will stand by, Sheena will be with us in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hi everyone. Thank you so much, Pamela, for letting me come on and share your wonderful audience, your wonderful platform. My name is Sheena Steward. I am a podcaster. The name of my podcast is Truthfully Stew. I play on my last name, and because I call myself the Queen of Vulnerability, I used to have a blog called Love at Any Stage, where I really would delve deep into my truths. Hence Truth Tuesday, and that kind of all ties together like Truthfully Stew, where that came from. So as Pamela stated, I'm new into the podcast game. I'm just finishing up season 1 of my podcast, and it's just about me, my life, my truths, and I talk about relationships, mental health, therapy, parenting, all of those things, and everything in between.
Well, you definitely don't sound like a new podcaster. When I've listened to your podcast, you definitely sound like someone who's been in the game for a while. So I'm just really excited about having you here. I know, yes, and she's being modest. She's also a mom of twins.
Twins. Pandemic babies. Born at the end of 2019, which I still consider pandemic babies because when they were infants, the pandemic was going on.
Oh, absolutely. I totally would probably agree with that. It's funny. I don't have any personally, but every parent I know with a pandemic child, it seems like the child is like ready to go get a job or something. Like they have this exacerbated level of maturity. It's very
it's scary. Yes, it is.
It's frightening. Well, I'm just so glad to have you here and kind of like get an opportunity to talk with you about your platform. Because you're right, Truthfully Stew and sharing your truths is always, it's a challenge. How did you decide that you wanted to start a podcast?
So I had been blogging since the end of 2016. So to give a little bit of backstory, I started blogging because my husband and I got married in the beginning of 2016, and we hadn't lived together. So we moved in together once we got married, and we both were living in a new part of Nashville. So we live in Nashville, Tennessee. We were both in a new part of Nashville, and I was working from home 3 days a week prior to everything that happened with COVID and everyone joining the remote world now. But he would go to work and come back home, and some days he would be like, "You were in that same spot this morning when I left and you're still there. Like, what are you doing? What did you do? I'm like, I did work, but I haven't moved. You're right. I have not moved from the spot. So he thought, hey, let's go like try out our neighborhood. Let's go to like every week, try a new restaurant. And me being the creative person that I am, I'm like, oh, that's cute. Tried a new restaurant. Let's up the ante. You got to give me something else. So I decided that we should start doing weeknight date nights. So every Wednesday or Thursday, we would take turns on who chose the date, and then we would have some type of date. And it couldn't be, let's go to the movies, let's go out to eat. We would do those things on the weekend, like your normal run-of-the-mill type of dates. These dates had to be creative. The first one, my husband asked, could he go first? And it was movies in the park. So we went to go see Space Jam. So we just went back and forth like that. We did it for a whole year. I remember writing a blog post, like 52 dates, insane. So I started doing that, and I would just post the dates on social media. And then some weeks I wouldn't post, and people would be like, what did you do this week? And I'm like, oh, no, I'm just chilling at the house. Like, you got any Netflix recommendations? They're like, no, what was the date? I'm like, you care? So then they were like, you should start a blog. So I started a blog. And then I roped in my wedding photographer, who wasn't shooting bloggers or anything. She was a wedding photographer. So I was like, hey, can you shoot me? And she was like, of course. So people would see her amazing work, and then look at the dates. And they were like, oh, my goodness, like this couple is perfect. Look at those pretty pictures. Look at the dates. And this was 2016. So it was pre-reels. So it was just like, oh, my God, this is it. And I started to read some of the comments and thought, we're not perfect, and I'm not trying to portray that. So I was headed to work one day. I worked Tuesday and Thursdays in the office. So I was driving to work, listening to Ordinary People by John Legend, and was like, oh my goodness, this couple they're in a bad way. And then I was like, oh, that was us. That used to be us. So I got to work, logged in, and then kind of pushed my computer to the side, my laptop to the side, brought out my pen and paper, and I started to write. And that was the first Truth Tuesday. My husband and I, that was a Thursday. I remember because Friday, I let him read it. We were actually headed to the movies with our photographers, and we had dinner first, and I let him read it, and I'm like watching his face, and I could tell he was not with it. So he was like, yeah, I think this is sharing too much. This is just a bit much. So then I'm like, yeah, but we share every week. We share our dates. So like, we can't give them the good and not like everything else. So the next morning he woke up and said, you know what, we do have to present ourselves as whole people and not just like, I guess the reels as, they are now, the highlight reels of our life. So I decided to start doing Truth Tuesday, did that pretty consistently for a couple of years. And as you mentioned, we do have twin girls. So I got pregnant, and because I blogged about my life so heavily, I stopped blogging because I did not want to blog about my pregnancy, even though I blogged about such like personal, in-depth things. I had one blog where I talked about like taking antidepressants and like how it would make me feel and how it would change my body. And I called it The Stranger in My House. So and how it did affect our sex life. So talked about those in-depth things, but pregnancy was just off limits. It was like, whoa, that's a boundary. Don't want to talk about it. Don't want to do it. So because that was my life, or most of my life at the time, I just decided to stop blogging. So the pandemic happened. I had the girls, pandemic happened. And I just thought, hey, I don't have a creative outlet anymore. Like, what am I doing? I'm not blogging. I'm still writing, but I'm not blogging. So then I was like, I've been wanting to podcast for years. I think anybody that I've ever met, even people at like the stoplight, I'm pretty sure I've like rolled down my window before, like, hey, I want to start a podcast. So that's how like I got to podcasting. I know that's like a long-winded roundabout way to get there, but like that's the journey like of how I got to podcast. So starting from like date nights to blogging, now I'm podcasting.
That's quite a transition, because I was like you said, you were keeping it kind of light in the beginning and talking about dates till now it starts to get more, obviously it got more personal, as you got probably more comfortable sharing your stories. And I could respect not wanting to share information about your pregnancy, because that's a very personal time in someone's life. So, and people always have opinions about everything, because you're right. Social media it's a different vibe from 2016 to right now. It's a totally different vibe. So I can respect it. I guess one question that I have immediately is, it seems like your husband is a very supportive source for your content. Has that always been the case? And if so, how has that evolved as you've moved into podcasting?
Yeah, to go back a little bit, what you talked about pregnancy, I think that you're in it and you're in it for however long you're in it. You don't know, you think you know what the outcome will be. Hey, you will be blessed to deliver and have a healthy pregnancy. But especially with twins, there's always in the back of your mind, what if it doesn't happen that way? So I know that was one of my fears. I'm going on this, if I do choose to go on this journey and blog about it, what if it doesn't end happily? Then I have all that content out there. It's I can try to erase it, but it's never going away. Yeah. So that was one of my things. I'm not gonna move forward with that. I just wanted to say that.
Oh no, that speaks directly what I was saying. Yeah, that it's so personal. I mean, pregnancy, like you said, unfortunately, it's not always a guaranteed outcome. So yeah.
Yeah, I didn't tell anyone. Of course, my husband, my mom, and my favorite cousin, they knew. I didn't make the quote unquote announcement until I was 5 months. And I mean, even my aunts and stuff didn't know. My mom was like, I have to tell someone. I'm like, no, you can't. Nope. So it was, I'd held on to it as long as I could. So
I totally respect that. Totally.
Yeah. But my husband, his name is Anthony. And to give your audience a little bit more backstory, his name is Anthony Hutchinson, and my name is Sheena Steward. I did not change my last name. For our wedding hashtag, it was Hutch Stew, Say I Do. And I just needed something that rhymes. So I just combined our last names, and people still call us Hutch Stew to this day. Our girls have an Instagram page, and it's called Hutch Stew Sisters, because that's still a thing. It's what people send Christmas cards or whatever to us. It's the Hutch Stew family. So I love it. I love it. So he is extremely supportive, has always been supportive, even when we were dating. And I'm like, I have an idea. He's like, okay, what is it? Can you be at my house at something time and wear this? Yep, can. Yep. And I just got a Facebook, my birthday is coming up, and I got a Facebook memory this week to, I don't know, before the girls were born. So it's everything is BC. Mm-hmm. So I guess it's BT, before twins, right, for us. So I think about what year was that? No, I wasn't pregnant. So yeah, okay, it had to at least be 2018. So somewhere in between 2016, when we got married in 2018, I had a Facebook memory pop up this week, and where he gave me an envelope, and there was a card inside, and he was like, pack these type of things, get ready for this. And so I had no clue what we were doing. And we actually went to do a trapeze class that was right outside of Atlanta, which was amazing. We had a fun time there, but just things like that to show that he was supportive, because he knows that I like adventure. I like surprises. Don't buy me a flashy gift. Do some type of adventure. And I remember in the class, they would teach you the standards, teach you the basics, and then it's okay, it's your time. And so I say I'm afraid of heights, but I never turn down any adventure that involves heights. So I'm climbing up the stairs, and I'm I do my turn, and he does it, and it's I can see him physically shaking as he's climbing up the stairs. And he said the girl was like, "Is that your wife?" And he was like, "No, it's my fiance." So I guess that would have been 2015. I answered my own question. He's I knew it had to be some connection there, because there's no way that you would just do this on your, I see you physically shake, everyone knows you're physically shaking. So there had to be a reason, that it had to be love. And he was like, yeah, definitely. And we always joke, because he did his couple rounds, and Like he attempted to like at the end, you try to do a couple of stunts. And he tried once and he was like, okay, I think I'm just going to end it. Cause we were all like in a rotation. Like you see your neck, like, oh, I'm up next. I need to start climbing up the ladder. And he was like, okay, I've tried enough. I'm just going to end it. And everyone was like, whoa, way to go, Anthony. He's taking his equipment off. So I actually did the stunt where I'm like flying and I like let go and like the person catches me, like the professional catches me. And I'm like, did you get it? Did you get it on my video? And he was like, yeah, I got it. I'm like, that's it. That's all I need. Like I had like looked at the time. I'm like, okay, I have one more try that I could go, but I'm like, I'm going to end on a positive note. It's my birthday weekend. This is it. And they're like, no, it was great. But like the next time it could be like clean and precise. And I'm like, I mean, I'm not a professional, but like, no, you have to do it again. You have to do it again. And so I was like, okay, I'll do it again. And he looked at me. He was like, I quit like 45 minutes ago and nobody cared. It was like they were all like, yay, way to go. He was like, you try to quit and it's like 10 minutes left in class. And they're like, no, you can do it again. You can try again. So that is just like, I think that is one of the instances that shows like his level of support.
Oh my God.
And
yeah.
he would like be in all the pictures for my blog, although my blog really didn't have anything to do with him in the beginning. Like I'm talking about our marriage, but it's not him. It's not his blog. And I would always make comments like, oh yeah, he's my prop. Like that I need him there for like all the, like I need to throw a leg up, throw a hand up. He's like the prop. But he was always there. Yes. He was always there for like all the pictures. He just went to homecoming for like where he went to college. And it was like something like at a hotel suite. And people were like, wait, I know I'm not that intoxicated. Did I just see you and Sheena in the lobby? He was like, yeah, we did like something for this hotel like some years ago. That's like not even our real wedding pictures. It's just like an advertisement. And it's like, oh, he was like, I didn't even realize they're still there. So things like that. It's like we're like bride and groom models. And yeah, he's very, very supportive.
I love that because I think sometimes, you need people in your life who support your dreams, even if they don't want to, participate in them, at least support them. And I think that's cool. And the fact that you guys have that story, that definitely shows he was willing to fly high for your love.
Yeah, I like that. Yes, definitely. Literally.
Like literally fly high.
I see him shaking.
Oh my gosh. Now, I know we talked a little bit before, like when we did our pre-call, and you were mentioning like, a part of their content that you guys talk about sometimes is your marriage. And he is a part of that content with you. Is that something that you're going to expand on more with this podcast?
Yeah. So there is one episode left in season 1. And it's the last episode of the season, and it's actually with him. So that's the first episode that I have a guest. And so as I was preparing for season 2, and I'm like, I want this to kind of be like an album where there's a theme, and like you like one of the albums that you can just like hit play and no skips. That's what I'm thinking. So I thought about it. I'm like, it was just so easy to put headphones in and just talk, like headphones and have a mic and just record like our natural conversations that we have. So he will be on 2 episodes for season 2.
That's very cool. I was going to say, obviously, being married, you're constantly learning about each other, but working together on a project or anything definitely brings out more of an opportunity to learn more about your spouse. What's one thing you would think that you've learned about yourself and your husband by you guys collaborating together on content?
Definitely that, we talk about strengths and weaknesses. I'm not an organized person. I am a procrastinator, like all of those things. He's the opposite. So he is organized. He wants to do things like before they're due. So that really helps me, and it really motivates me and pushes me. Yes. So, and then I think on the other side of things, like I'm the dreamer. I'm like the very creative person. So I kind of like pull him out. He's a people person. He is the extrovert in the relationship. I'm the introvert. But as far as like being, I know that face. I get that a lot.
Yeah, you sound I was questioning that a lot.
You're not the first person to do that. But I don't have to pull him out of his shell because he's an extrovert. But as far as like taking the step, like I guess on the wild side, like, just various things that I've thought of. He doesn't even ask anymore. It's more so like, is this a secret thing that I need to be like in on? Or like, what can I know? Like what we're doing in the beginning, what level of knowledge do I need to have? Like I'm in it, but what level of knowledge do I need to have? So I think just like going blindly with things, you know, also has taught me a lot about him. But also I think he wasn't necessarily like that in the beginning. Like he was always going to support, but I could hear like apprehension in his voice. Like, whereas now it's just like, okay, yeah. I'm like, are you listening? He's like, yeah, I'm listening. Like it's just like, it's nothing now. Like, what do you need me to do? Like, I thought this was like one of the surprise ones where I just show up. Like, that's why I'm like, okay. But as far as like what I've learned about myself and what he's taught me, it's definitely I'm not going to be an organized person. Well, I take that back. I am organized with the girls. They have taught me to
I was
be
going to say
organized.
most mothers are organized. There's just no way. If you're a mom, you're organized.
But it cuts off at that. If it has nothing to do with them, then it's like I lost it. I'm like, I just like sit here and planned out a whole week. And then it's like this one thing, it's like I can't keep my mind straight for like something that's one day. But that's where he comes in. Like even during the pandemic, when we were both working from home. And so we worked from home with them for 18 months. So they went from like 6 months from when the pandemic first started to 2 years. And we had them like every day, all day, like both working from homes. And we both have like pretty high powered jobs. And we had to download an app. So we downloaded an app and it was like color coded and we had to put our schedules in there. Like, okay, there's a conflict on this day. What's going on? Like, you're gonna have to take them because I can't take them in this meeting. Like, well, they're more kid friendly in this meeting. I can take them. So, he's helped guide me with the organizational skills. I'm not there yet, but I'm happy that he's leading in that front.
Oh, that's good. Because I always say teamwork makes the dream work. And I think personally, it sounds like you guys have like a really good symmetry. So go for it. Because bless you, 18 months. I don't have kids, but I work from home as well. And I see parents every day, just even with 3 years in, they still look like they're just worn out because the children are home. With them in some instances, like if school shuts down, I see parents start to like look like deer in the headlights. Like, oh my God, they're home with me today.
Like, what am I gonna do? Like,
right. And so I totally could imagine how challenging it is because you're right. It's like you're working, trying to balance your family, and yeah, it's a lot. So I commend you for finding that.
We started to, and this is something that I thought of, and it's another testament to him being like, this is great. Yes, let's do this. I was like, we always have them, like, because we work from home and they're here. Everyone needs a break, like a solo break. So we started like once a month, we would take turns each month and like, hey, this is your month. Pick a Saturday and you get to go off and you don't come back until Sunday, which means you stay, like have a staycation, find a hotel, find you a nice hotel and like order room service or don't order room service, like drive around, do whatever you want to do. And so it became like kind of a game, like, ooh, where do I want to stay this month? This is my month. Like, oh, this is nice. And I remember the first month that we did it, he was like, you can go first. He was like, and I'll even pay for the hotel. So I was telling my mom about it and she was like, this is so great. I'll pay for the hotel. And I'm like, I love you both. And you don't even know that both of you are paying. Thank you so much. But yeah, just little things like that where it's like, they seem little, but then you're so refreshed where it's like, okay, you don't look worn down and tired. And something that he thought of just on your regular week to week, Saturdays and Sundays, we take turns. That's a theme. If you haven't caught on, we take turns a lot.
Yes,
we take turns on who sleeps in. So when they moved out of our room at 6 months and they moved into their own cribs, and I say moved out of our rooms, not our beds. They never slept in the bed with us. So when parents talk about that struggle, I know nothing about it. We had 2 bassinets in our rooms, like one on one side, one on the other side. And we would take turns again with each baby. So just in case one was like a crier, you're not always stuck with them. So it's like, okay, each night is like, okay, I have this baby now. I have A. Like we used to say A and B back in the day. Like, yeah, I got A. So that means I got B tonight. Yeah. So we would like take turns with that. And then once they moved up to their room, we're downstairs, they're upstairs. We started to like take turns with the monitor. Like, who has the monitor? So it's like you're gonna have the monitor like by your head. So if someone starts crying or something, then that means that you got to decide like whether or not to talk to them or like take that track up at 3:00 in the morning up the stairs. But like the other person, don't tag them in unless it's like, hey, I think we need to go to the emergency room. But like a diaper change or just someone's crying, that's on you. It's your night. So we kind of expanded that to the weekends. And this is something Anthony thought of. He was like, we need to sleep in. Somebody has to sleep in. Everyone does not have to get up at like 6 in the morning. Our twin A Harper, she still to this day at 3 years old wakes up at 6:00.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, everyone is, oh my gosh, even her sister. Like she's like, please leave me alone because she's not up. But so let's say I have the monitor because we still have the monitor because they still need to be monitored. So it's like I have the monitor on Friday night. That means I get up. When Harper gets up, and then I'm getting up. So I go upstairs and I get them and we start our day. Anthony sleeps. So he sleeps in. Somehow 9:30 has become like the arbitrary time. It's like, I don't know. No, neither one of us ever said 9:30, but it's just kind of become a thing where it's like, it's enough time for you to sleep. But like also it's not having the other person like having the whole day, like with two little ones running around. So yeah, at 9:30, it's like the other one goes up and, if the parent who woke up is like tired, it's like, hey, go downstairs, get some rest. And sometimes it's like, no, I'm just gonna stay. Like I just want to play too. Like I'm not sleepy, so we take turns. So someone gets to sleep in Friday. No, someone gets to sleep in Saturday, and someone gets to sleep in Sunday.
That's really cool. Like you and your husband seem like you have really worked very hard to have a very equitable relationship. And I know, obviously I'm not married. So I always like, whenever I hear tidbits like that, I always think, yes, that goes back to my thought of reciprocity. I believe strongly in reciprocity in relationships. Are you going to be talking a lot about how you guys got to that point on your podcast?
Yeah. I think like in season 2, that's one of the episodes that we kind of loosely discussed that we want to like journey through. Just because the other day I was like in my closet and I came out and I was like, Anthony, and then I was like, wait, I don't know if you don't know this. I'm going to ask you a question. And he's like, okay, all right. I'm waiting. I'm like, have you ever heard anyone say independent man? And he was like, no, I haven't. I'm like, that is crazy. He was like, yes. And then it just started like an hour-long conversation about like us like talking. Mm-hmm. And then he was like, I think that's like the second episode that I should be on. I'm like, yeah, let's talk about this. Like, let's explore this. And, to us, all of this is like, it's foreign to us because we don't think that way, but we like to kind of like, hey, are we missing something? Like, are there ways that we could be, more efficient in what we're doing? But yeah, I don't know why I thought about that, but I'm in my closet and I was like, no one ever says independent man. Wait a second. Why not? They have to be independent. Like, yeah. And then just spawn like a whole conversation.
I love that because I do feel the best ideas do come in either the closet, the shower, or the car. It's just,
yes.
It's just like there's certain key areas where it's like inspiration hits you. So I like that. But I do think that obviously having that conversation, because it just sounds like even from you not taking your husband's last name, you guys are charting your own course in your relationship. So I think a lot of people would benefit from that because I think now I see a lot more people trying to have those type of relationships, Yeah.
And we talked about that just from, as he was talking about it from a male standpoint, that is a huge burden to carry for someone to lead in every situation, someone to lead like in every situation, like even financially, like all the decisions, like just everything. And even us having two girls, he's like, there's no way I have more knowledge than you on being a woman, or, things that just them being at the little girl stage right now. Like, I don't. So I might say something that's like, on the surface, it sounds good, but then you add more context to it, or add like, hey, this is very layered. And I'm like, and he's like, yep. All right, mine is very surface. You're right. We're going to go with what you said because it makes sense. You're a woman, like those things. He's like, he just said it like, it seems like too much pressure, too much of like a heavy lift of one person. But then I'd said from like the woman's perspective in the more like traditional marriages, like that's also like a heavy thing to like, I work, like I have to cook and clean and do all this and everything. And so I think that in both instances, what we learned is like, for us, those traditional roles were too heavy of a burden for either of us to carry. And we would just rather like, this is the load. Okay, let's figure out the best way to like pick it up and move it. Like, is this one of your strengths? Okay, you have 75% of the load for this. I only have 25 because I'm not good at this, but I do need to have at least 25 so I can learn. Like, if you just take all of this, then I'm not going to learn. I'm just going to watch you and like zone out. So I do need to like be involved in it, but I do recognize that like, this is not my thing. Like, I'm going to fall back and like, be a lead, be a follower on this one.
Hey, I totally understand. And again, because I think that that's going to be really insightful commentary for your audience, because like I said, I just see this trend out here now where I think women and men are trying to figure out the best way to write their own stories for relationships and marriages. So I think you guys definitely have a lot of great experience that you can share in that regard. So I look forward to listening to your episodes where you guys are talking about that. So I've talked a lot about your husband. We talked a lot about the husband. We talked about the babies too, but let's talk about you, because you're very truthful.
Yes.
Very truthful, sharing your challenges and stuff like that. How did you get to that point where you decided, you know what, I can lay it out? Because I'll be honest, when you're a podcaster, or it is hard to lay your truth out. It is. And you have to, but it's hard. So how did you decide, you were ready?
Yeah, lots and lots and lots of therapy is like what got me there. But then also having the blog, but then also starting True Tuesday, that I feel like took me to another level, because it's like, okay, if I'm going to have to be truthful every Tuesday with my audience, then that forces me to be truthful in my life. Mm-hmm. So I can't like half step if I'm putting something out there. I'm like, that's really not how that went. I can't do that. So I'm forced to like sit down with myself, either with pen and paper or typing on the computer, and having those hard conversations with myself in order to put them out. And I always say, like, if you are, I guess now podcasting, but when I was writing about them, blogging about it, like, hey, if you're reading this or if you're listening to this, that means I've come to a good place about this. I'm never going to put anything out there where I'm still like in the middle of it, like struggling with it. That's not going to work. And even in like one podcast episode, I think it might have been the one that aired today, where it's like I'm talking and I'm like, you know what? I just realized in speaking about this, I'm not there yet. So let's just put a pin in this, and then hopefully I can come back in a future episode. But I'm going to have to stop this section right here because I can't move on. So yeah, just therapy and Truth Tuesday have like led me to the promised land of vulnerability. I'd say it's my superpower, and I call myself the queen of vulnerability.
I love it. Yes, because and I totally get having to put a pin in things. I've had to put a pin in it too sometimes. Sometimes when it's too raw, it's just, it's not going to come out right. And you're just not at that processing point, right? So I respect that. I do. I really do. And I think that it's good that you are so vulnerable, because you're right. It's like, I wouldn't consider myself the queen of vulnerability yet. I'm working on that. I think that's one of my upcoming superpowers. I don't think I have it 100% mastered, but I love the fact that you are so vulnerable. I guess like going into like your second season, are there particular subjects that you're looking to dive in a little bit more to your vulnerability on?
Yeah, so the second season is all about connections. Um, and that is, I mean, clearly just a broad topic, which I like. So it
Mhm.
lets me, I guess, drive the podcast car down to different like avenues of like connections, like whether that's relationships, marriage, of course, parenting, myself, the connection that I have with my parents, which makes me see how I like have a connection with myself. Like all of those like inner workings of things where I'm like in therapy, like, man, can't wait till I get past this so I can talk about it. And it's from a standpoint of like, I want to help other people. So I know that there's never anyone out there like I always say that there's no story that hasn't already been told. It's like you put your spin on it, but that story has been told before. That's why we have a million songs, like love songs, or a million like heartbreak songs. Like people have been through it, but it's like what resonates with what your story, putting your story out there could resonate with a whole different group of people where they've heard a love song before and like, it just doesn't really touch me. Maybe they hadn't been through it, or maybe it's like those words that they formulated and put together is like, this is it. This is the song. Like I finally get it. So that's why like I love to be so vulnerable. It's because I know that it can help other people.
Yeah. And that is the key. And it is like the thing to me that kind of helps when the vulnerability gets tough because you know that you're helping someone and you get to, be impacted by people because you'll get little notes about how somebody related to something that you said. So I definitely can see where your journey is going to really help so many people. If there's one thing that you could let my audience know about you or anyone who is discovering you, what is that one thing that you would want them to know about you and your platform?
That you're always going to get truthfulness. I mean, I didn't name it that just for the sake of like, oh, that sounds cute. It's a play on our name. No,
Right.
come here for the real, for the raw, for the truthfulness. It's like I like to look at my words like a warm hug.
Mm.
So I'm gonna give you truthfulness, I'm gonna give you realness, but at the end of the day, I'm gonna like wrap you in and like bring you close and like, it's like sipping hot chocolate by a fire. It's gonna be that type of truthfulness, like where it's like, okay, I know this feeling, like this is a safe place for me. That's what I want them to know, that my podcast is a safe place for you to listen and you get to connect and hopefully hear something that is valuable to you now. And then also things like, hey, I'm not there in my life, but I'm going to save that for when it becomes, apparent in my life.
I love that. And definitely anything that involves hot chocolate sounds like a warm hug to me. So I love content like that. And I am very excited about having the opportunity to support you. So where can we find you? That's my final question. Where can we find you? Give us all the details.
Yeah. So on Instagram, I am at Truthfully Stew. On YouTube, I am at Truthfully Stew. So Truthfully Stew everywhere that you can find me anywhere. It's going to be Truthfully Stew.
Okay, perfect. And don't worry, guys, I'm going to have all of her information in the show notes. And Sheena, I just want to thank you because this has just been like a really cool conversation. I wasn't drinking cocoa. I was drinking tea. So I feel warm. I feel hugged and loved.
Hey, I feel like I've done my job.
Awesome. And I really am so glad that you came. And I definitely would love to collaborate with you again. So
Yes, please.
we'll
I've
have
like
to.
listened to your panel interviews and I feel like I know some of those women because I've listened the ones where there have been series and I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, let me see how long this is. Oh, this is an hour. Oh, let me strap in, put my seatbelt on and like, go. It's like I'm listening to like girlfriends talk.
Thank you.
I love it. And I just can hear like from episode to episode when people come back, I'm like, I can hear a deeper connection between these women from the last episode. Just so I love it. Please don't stop that. Not trying to tell you how to do your podcast, but
Oh no, thank you.
I love that.
Thank you. I definitely will have more panel discussions. And that's what I love, because once you're a part of the Well Done Life family, you're part of the family. So I'll be inviting you back, and I want to connect more, because this is about growth and elevation on all levels, my dear. So you are part of the fam now.
Thank you.
Thank you. And so, like I said, thank you again for coming on this week, guys. I'll have all of Sheena's information in the show notes, and I will be back next week with another new episode, and we will talk to you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.